hundreds of years, people have been going missing in the wilderness under strange and unusual circumstances. Hunters, hikers, backpackers, explorers, all have gone missing in the deep wilderness. Mysterious deaths, unsolved disappearances. Join me tonight, and we will look at the fascinating and bizarre cases of the wilderness mysteries. On September the 7th, 2014, bow hunter Aaron Hedges and two other hunters arrived at the Cottonwood Lake Trailhead. Here is where they would begin their trek into the crazy mountain range. Aaron and his friends were very familiar with this area. They had hunted and camped here for many years. They were prepared. They were ready for any eventuality. These men were experienced in the wilderness. It was the furthest thing from their mind that any of them would get into any real trouble. But as we will see, the strangeness of this case would start from the very beginning. The terrain that the men would be hunting in was remote and rugged and inaccessible to land vehicles. So on this trip, they were required to have horses and pack mules to haul their equipment up the trail into the camping area and hunting area that they were seeking. Unfortunately, it would be at this point that the men would have their first major disaster. The men had two horses and one mule to carry their supplies and were crossing one of the high passes when for some reason the mule, which was carrying Aaron Hedges' supplies, spooked. It took off and Aaron lost some of his supplies. It took hours to gather up essential items that fell and to reorganize the packs. The three men were carrying radios to communicate with each other. And upon arriving at their destination, Aaron had informed them that he would have to split off from them and go get some supplies that he had cached at another lake further up the area. There were no worries. They had camped here and hunted here before, and they had these supplies stashed in these areas for this very reason of emergencies, planning ahead. For reasons that are still not known, Aaron radioed his friends in the late afternoon to inform them that he had missed the trail back to their location, that he was going to go to the Sunlight Lake area. He knew this area because he had hunted it the previous year, and he had supplies there as well. He knew a sleeping bag and other items were there, which he had needed. He had planned to just simply grab those items and be back later in the evening. His friends didn't think much of the whole deal. They weren't even worried about it, and they stated to him that they would see him that night. Unfortunately, Aaron never arrived. The next morning, Aaron still had not made it back to camp. However, his friends were not overly concerned. They knew that Aaron was well supplied and that Aaron was heavily armed. And Aaron was very experienced in this area. So they decided to go elk hunting. They figured they would just see him that night. They managed to kill an elk and they brought it back to camp. However, Aaron still had not arrived that night. Now they were starting to get concerned because this was very, very unusual. And unfortunately, this area of the mountains did not have much cell phone reception and was miles from the nearest phone and a whole entire day ride back to their vehicles. On the very next day, Aaron's friends were concerned and they started a frantic search for him. After attempting to reach Aaron on his radio and a frantic search for their friend, they realized that the topography was too much for just a couple of men to search. So they decided to pack up and head back to civilization and summon help to find their lost friend. It would be a long, cold Tuesday night for Aaron's friends. They worried and wondered, where was he? And it would be a long trek back to civilization to summon help for Aaron Hedges. On Wednesday morning, Aaron's friends began the long, arduous trek back to civilization to get help for Aaron. Upon arriving to their vehicles and having cell phone reception finally, they informed Aaron's wife that he was missing. Immediately after that, she contacted the police department and a search and rescue plan was put into effect. Initially, there were some people who were skeptical and questioned the motives of Aaron's friends. They questioned their decision to search for Aaron and not immediately call for police help. However, the police department determined that there was no foul play involved and that his friends did the right thing, and they did try hard to locate their friend. The search for Aaron Hedges hit a slight snag that some would say was maybe a little bit political. There was a discrepancy between where Aaron disappeared and where Aaron lived. So there were two different police agencies involved, two different counties. That was one critical delay. Initially, by the time the police department was able to mount a search and rescue team and effort, bad weather had moved into the area. It would be 2 more days before they would even be able to search for Aaron, coupled with the previous 3 days that he was missing, 5 days in total that Aaron was out there somewhere. Now, the high strangeness of this is, in this case, as in others, the weather plays a factor. It seems as though something doesn't want search and rescue to start immediately. In most of these cases, by the time a search and rescue effort is mounted, the weather becomes so bad that they cannot make the effort, which is vital because certain clues to the whereabouts of an individual can be lost because of bad weather. This is one of the high strangeness issues of these cases. After coordinating their search efforts, the 2 different police agencies came up with a plan that one would start from the eastern side and the other from the western side and converge on the area that would be Aaron's last known location. Now, speaking of high strangeness, this next thing that would happen would not only baffle law enforcement, but baffle everybody else as well. 2 days into the search, some gear was found at a campsite, and it was confirmed to be Aaron's. Of the items found at the campsite, a fire spot, a water filter, a camelback bladder, which was sitting near a pile of wood, and strangely, Aaron's boots. Indeed, the search and rescue team found it quite unusual and even downright bizarre that this man would just leave his boots. And not only that, but given the terrain with shale rocks and different debris of the topography that would injure the human foot, as if finding Aaron's boots and no tracks were bad enough, there was another strange and unusual oddity about the findings that really baffled law enforcement. The previous couple of days, that area had already been searched. As is customary with search and rescue, they will go over the same area multiple times. In the previous days that the area was searched, none of that camping equipment was there. The police department was at a loss to explain how they had missed it. There was no way they could have missed it. They were also at a loss to, again, explain how there were no tracks. How a man could just walk out of that type of area, that type of terrain, barefoot, just doesn't seem possible. These facts are one of the many strange and unusual details of some of these cases. 9 months later, authorities would catch a break in the case of missing hunter Aaron Hedges. Another hunter had found his orange hunting vest, pack and clothing, his bow, socks, shirt, and a vest. Now, the area that this was found in was 6 to 7 miles away from Aaron's last known location. The puzzling thing is, at the time Aaron was missing, there was snow, deep snow drifts. Aaron would have been barefoot, being that his boots were found at a makeshift campsite. How does a man walk barefoot through the deep snow and rough rocky terrain 6 to 7 miles to civilization and then not seek help? Now, let's fast forward 1 year. Some people riding horseback from a nearby dude ranch found human remains that were later identified as belonging to Aaron Hedges. Truly another unusual find. What adds to the strangeness is that where all his equipment was found and his remains, those areas had been previously searched many times by search and rescue workers and law enforcement. One can only wonder what is going through their mind at the high strangeness of this case. One of the sheriff was asked by someone what did he make of the case and the strangeness of everything. And the sheriff was quoted as saying that it's the $1 million question. And he also stated that any theory could be possible. They just simply don't know. Things just don't add up. And no matter how many times the story is told, it's strange and highly unusual. This case could be said to be equally matched to the name of the area in which it took place, the Crazy Mountains. So what happened to Aaron Hedges? This is a question that we may never find the answer to. But we must also remember that Aaron is loved and missed by his family. And we honor him and we honor them. And we pray that one day they will find closure and find peace in this situation. If you found this case fascinating and intriguing, I recommend you check out Mr. Dave Pilates' work. He has several books called The Missing 411. He is the pioneer in understanding these missing person cases that happen in the wilderness of America and abroad. He has brought forth and brought to light the high strangeness of these cases, first noting in our national parks and rural areas. I suggest you buy his book. It's a great read and very informative. It's $25 on his site. Go to Dave Pilates' site, Can-Am Missing 411. Purchase it at his site for $25. If you go anywhere else, it'll be more expensive. And he'll tell you himself. Go to his site, $25, the best $25 you've ever spent. I guarantee it. I love this book. It's great, and I intend to get more in the series. Thank you to Mr. Pilates, whose research inspired me to do Wilderness Mysteries videos in the first place. So, God bless you guys. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate you. Godspeed and good night.